Please note that this podcast contains discussions of suicide. Hello and welcome to Small Business Snippets, the podcast from smallbusiness.co.uk. I'm your host, Anna Jordan. Our guest today is Ollie Ollerton, entrepreneur, former Special Forces soldier and directing staff on the hit show SAS Who Dares Wins. He joined the Royal Marine Commandos at the age of 18, touring Northern Ireland and Operation Desert Storm in Iraq. After returning home, he was recommended for Special Forces selection. Following the 6-month process, Ollie was one of 5 candidates to pass the selection out of an initial 250 who signed up for the course. These days, Ollie is the CEO of Breakpoint, a firm giving clients performance tools and insights based on Special Forces expertise, along with running protein supplement Battle Ready Fuel and fitness app Battle Ready 360. He left SAS Who Dares Wins UK in 2020 and now fronts the Australian version of the programme. We're going to be talking goal setting as well as diversity and inclusion in business. Hi Ollie, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Anna. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, so I want to jump right in here today and just ask you a bit about your business life. Tell us more about what a typical business day looks like for you.
Yeah, typical business day for me. Well, really, first things first, and let's just go on today. I mean, what time is it now? It's 9:30 in the morning. So my day starts at 5 o'clock. And really between 5 o'clock and I'd say about 8 o'clock, there's only one person involved with that process, and that's me. It's all about me. It's focused on me, and that it really is the time where I invest in myself. I don't need to go into too much detail about the routine, but that involves for me fitness. So I've been for a 7K run this morning with the dog. I've got a sauna, which I go and meditate in for 20 minutes. But before I do that, actually, I come downstairs and I actually go through my goals. My main goal, which is what I call a C-type goal. Hopefully we'll go on to what that means. I write that out and visualize what that feels like, what it looks like, what it feels like, really important. I then have 6 points of gratitude, and that's my first initial process as soon as I wake up, together with a hot lemon, of course. Not just a hot lemon, it's in water, so I don't chew on a hot lemon.
Just a hot slice of lemon there.
So that is really, now this is my perfect day. You know, I don't do it every day because I'm not, I don't beat myself up when I can't do it, or I just give myself a little bit of flexibility some days. But that is how the day starts for me. Now, as long as I've done that, regardless of how my day goes, I've won every day. So it's really important for me to do that process, especially on a school day. So for me today, it'll be then going and working on my business, which has always been, I'm known for the TV, I'm known for SAS Who Dares Wins, but well before that, not too long before it, because it's quite a story in itself, that was, my sole focus was all about Breakpoint, starting my business to help other people through my experience of things I've learned, not just in the Special Forces, but more so what I learned from when I kind of broke down. I had a crisis in life, and it was my biggest battle, but my greatest discovery. So really it's about Breakpoint's all about helping people to understand that, how we can change, how we can be the best version of ourselves. So my day will really be about starting to, we've got a lot of changes at the moment with our business. We're starting to build on more online platforms. We're letting go of more of the physical assets. So that's happening at the moment, so we're really starting to consolidate to accumulate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot that I want to dig into there. So what you've talked about there, a lot around the challenges of running a business, and you touched on it a little bit earlier. You, around 2014, had a real lull where you couldn't find your purpose. Tell us a bit more about that and how you went about finding your purpose from there.
Yeah, it was an epiphany for me, because I didn't even understand that word purpose. When I joined the military, I didn't understand what purpose meant. I wasn't there, I didn't join the military going at 18 years old, right, I've finally found my purpose and then blah, blah, blah. I wasn't, if you want to call it, spiritually connected at that stage. Now, 2014 is when I came back to the UK, but 2011, 2012 is where I had that real struggle. And that for me was where I basically hit my lowest ebb. Now, for me at that point, I'd been thinking that happiness, success, this, that, and the other was external. And when I sort of hit rock bottom, I was prepared to be responsible for where I was in life. I was prepared to stop blaming my environment. I was prepared to stop blaming other people for where I was. I was prepared to take full responsibility for who I was, where I was, and be quite honest and brutal about that. And that was such an amazing thing for me, because that then forced me to look within. And that is where the answers are. But the thing is, the way we're wired, the way we're programmed, we're programmed to think that everything is external, but it's not. If we don't get the grounding of who we are and create that strong foundation of who we are, create that root system that can sustain any storm, then we're not going to evolve in life. We might make certain kind of changes and evolve slowly, but when you actually start to look within and understand that's where the answers are, that's when you start to make those quantum leaps. And that was it for me. 2011, I was like, wow, this is, and that's what happened. I started thinking about suicide. Was on my mind. I didn't attempt suicide, but sometimes I started to think about it all too often. That was a wake-up call for me to say, no, it doesn't end like this. I actually remember hearing that voice. It doesn't end like this, Ollie. And that was enough for me to go, right, I'm doing something about this. That for me was what Breakpoint's all about. I was prepared to no longer accept the way I was. I was no longer prepared to accept that the patterns of behavior that were keeping me locked in the repeat habit loop of monotony. And that really is Breakpoint. I was prepared to step into that discomfort, which I knew was short term, provided I had a destination in mind, in view. And really, for me, that first part of that was to take away all the negative things, the easily identifiable negative habits that were holding me back. What's that? It's simple, isn't it? Make a list of all the things you've got going on in your life, the things that you spend your time on a social basis, work basis, relationship basis, write them all out. And then make a list, put a tick next to them if they're positive or negative. Dead easy for me at that stage. 2014, my relationship was toxic. My relationship with alcohol was toxic, and they were the main things I had to start working on. My relationship with finances was toxic. It was all those things that I had to start working on. And that's easy to make a list of, as long as you're prepared to identify with yourself and be honest and take responsibility. Responsibility is such a key word there. As long as you're prepared to be responsible for that. I see so many people out there who just are not authentic. I see them lying to themselves on a daily basis, and they're telling lies to themselves, but they, as far as they're concerned, they're keeping face to the outside world. They're pleasing the audience, but they're lying to themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that to me was 2014. That was that change where it wasn't an overnight fix. It was something for me where I had to start chipping away at it, tiny steps, millimeters. In 6 months, I made so much progress, started to get so much clarity that I wanted to share that. And that's when I came up with the concept of Breakpoint. Now, again, just around that, a lot of people, when it comes to business and stuff, people want to start their own business. They want that independence. They want that control over their lives. And some people are stuck going, oh, I just don't know what I do. But the thing is, forget what you do, forget the product, forget the service. You've got to focus on you, because once you focus on you and you get yourself grounded, the product or service or thing you want to offer the world will come. So you can't do that from a place where you're broken.
I mean, it must be the case, because you'd think that being in the military and having a clear mission and that is your thing to achieve. I think there are parallels between that and being in business, that you have your business goals. So I think this is an ideal time to bring it back in, but talk to me a bit more about seagulls and what that means.
Yeah, well, seagulls are so important because, look, the way we're wired, well, let me talk first. There's 3 types of goals, and we call them A-type goals, which are they're goals you can do. Now, A-type goals, that is the language of the ego. The ego wants you to chase A-type goals because the ego knows there's probably 100% chance that you're not going to fail. The ego is not going to be offended when you fail, because it's scared of failure. The ego is so scared of failure. So A-type goals is what we're inclined to really chase because we know we can do it. It's like me saying, next week, I'm going to run 100 meters. Oh, yeah. Now the audience might go, wow, that's amazing. I'm sure they wouldn't actually, but you know what I mean? But the thing is, we've done that A-type goal because we know that we're going to complete it. So we're pleasing the audience. From the outside world looking in, we're an absolute success. Now, people don't actually understand that if you're not challenging yourself, if you're not pushing yourself, then there's no growth. The only person you're sort of fooling is yourself. So let's go on to B-type goals. B-type goals is probably what a lot of people think is the correct formula. And that is a goal that we know with a little bit of structure, a bit of planning, we know we can achieve it. C-type goals are goals that on the face of it are just pure fantasy. The problem is the mind. The mind, if it can't see the path to the goal, negates it can be done. So really, as soon as you can't see that path, oh no, I can't do it. Your mind is focused on the how, not the why. When you're focused on the why, the how becomes possible. When you're focused on the how, you're going to look for every obstacle there is. And before you know it, and then, especially if you don't take action quite quickly, because the universe loves momentum, if you don't take action quite quickly, your mind will come up with 100 reasons why not to do it. Before you know it, you're so focused on why it can't be done, you've actually lost what you were even setting out to do in the first place. But C-type goals for me, let me give you an example there. When I came back 2014, locked myself in the house for 3 months in Cornwall because I needed to make those changes. I needed to change the blueprint of who I was. My C-type goal was Breakpoint. Starting a company, a globally identified brand recognized for the positive growth and development of others. I was still drinking. I was still abusing myself. But can you imagine what my mind is saying?
Yeah.
You want to start a business helping other people? Look at the state of you. How can you help anyone? You can't even string a sentence together. Now you can't shut me up. But at that stage, I was like, my mind was telling me you're an idiot. We think we've got this 1,000-person audience around us laughing and critiquing us, but there's no one there. It's just your mind. So this is the biggest battle. And once we get over that and say, no, that is my C-type goal. I don't need to know the path. I don't need to see the footprints. I'm going to create them. Once we understand that and just head to that vision of what that looks like, more importantly, what that feels like, because we need to add the emotion, that is the one thing that will pull us through. And that's exactly how I passed SAS selection.
Amazing. And I understand that when you were wanting to set up Breakpoint, your friends and family were a little concerned about that. How do you overcome people who say they have their best interests at heart, but maybe are kind of limiting in their belief of what you can do?
Yeah, we've got to be really careful on this because, your family, and it's not always the case because some, just because your family doesn't mean you love each other and get on. That's, we understand that. I understand that. But really, you listen to them because you love them. They're trying to help you as best as they can because they don't want to see you fail. And that was really it for me. It was almost like an intervention. It was like I was running out of cash. I was in the house. I just come back from, my typical role was being overseas in a war zone, earning a fortune, and my family were just saying the right thing, really. It's like, mate, it did make sense to the outside looking in. Go back to Iraq, go back on the circuit, do that job, get a load of money behind you in the bank, and then you can start this company called Breakpoint. And that, it does make a lot of sense. But first of all, I knew going back to a war zone was so toxic for me. I didn't actually tell my family what went on overseas. I never really talked about what went on in general in the military. But, they didn't understand what went on and how toxic that was for me. But really, it does sort of sow in a little bit. It did sow in a bit of self-doubt, and I came back from there thinking, I was fighting my mind again. And then all of a sudden I was like, I've been doing this, in this house for 3 months, and I was like meditating, goal setting, doing everything, all this stuff that I never thought or tried before, because I had nothing else. And then I can remember getting back to that house after that, probably the day after, and just shouting at the top of my voice, just give me something, and that was give me a corporate client, phone ring or something, something happened. Nothing was happening. And honestly, 2 days after that, I get the phone call from my best mate, Foxy, one of my best mates, who said, mate, do you want to do a similar thing that you're looking at with Breakpoint? Would you like to do that on TV? And I was like, are you kidding me? It was like, that was like, oh my God, if people don't believe in the universe and positive thought and visualization. I've been visualizing for all that 3 months about me and Foxy being on a big stage, influencing so many people. Then all of a sudden we were given the best platform in the world, the TV.
So you were on the UK version of SAS, Who Dares Wins, for some time, but you were let go, from what I've read, because Channel 4 weren't happy having 4 white men fronting the show. How has that affected your approach to diversity and inclusion in your businesses, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting time for me because I can remember that phone call coming in. And at the end of the day, there was a lot of people were being challenged with diversity issues and everything else. So the thing is, as soon as I got that information, I wasn't prepared to sit there and start blaming diversity, blaming this, blaming that, blaming our ancestors, all this, for the slavery, etc., etc. I just looked at myself straight away, and as soon as I heard that message, it was like I got what I wished for. When I started off in that house, that I wanted to create a globally identified brand, that was really about creating my company Breakpoint. Now, the more I stepped into that world of TV, it was taking me further and further away from that. So for me at that time, when I got that call, we'd just been given the opportunity for SAS Australia. Now, I was already being taken away from my business for quite extensive periods of time every year with SAS 2 Days Wins in the UK. To then negotiate a second one, I just started to see my business slip away. So really, it was kind of time for me to leave that. And I've been sort of wishing that my soul was saying, this is not where you were aiming to be. I didn't set out to be a celebrity. It's very much a sideshow for me. And it's a hard pill to swallow, isn't it? Because I'd never gone up and say, here's my notice. You're taking me away from my business, because it's a paycheck. It's comfort, isn't it? Now, when it comes back to your question, Anna, I said in the Sun paper, I don't care what color, what size, what shape. I don't care who's on my team. Everyone should be picked to do the job, and as long as they can do the job to the best of their ability and contribute to that team, it doesn't matter who they are. I've worked with all kinds of different races and sexes and genres. It's as long as people can do the job, it doesn't make any difference. So it's so important that you don't go the opposite way and say, well, because of that person's race, we need to have that person in the team. That is toxic.
What is the most rewarding part of running your businesses?
My service to others. And you know what? Life changed for me massively. I left the military, and all I was thinking about, one of the main reasons I left the military was money. I just didn't understand. I've always had expensive taste, and back in my military days, I did like to party. I actually thought working was just a means to pay for your social life, which was probably the wrong way to look at it. But for me, so when I left, I was just chasing money. Money was in the driving seat. I went out to Iraq. I went all over the world to war zones and got paid a fortune. And looking back, there was no difference. There was absolutely no difference. I got paid a fortune, but I had this mindset of lack, because money was in the driving seat. And the time that changed for me is when I went over to Southeast Asia and was involved in an operation to rescue kids from child prostitution and slavery. And I didn't know the gift that was going to give me. I wasn't paid for that. I paid to do the operation for my money I earned from Iraq. And that was just incredible, because it's the best investment I've ever made, the best return on investment. And that's when I understood the power of helping other people. Now, this day and age, the majority of people are more interested about how many followers they've got on Instagram. Even in a close-knit team, people are using each other as the ladder to get to position. You know what I mean? We've lost the ability to collaborate over compete. Compete's taken over collaboration. You look at two waves out in the ocean. When they crash together, they cancel out. When you see two waves join, they create one formidable force moving forward, unstoppable. And that's really important, that we learn to collaborate. But that really changed everything for me, because all of a sudden money was pushed to the side. My focus then became, because that was the DNA, that was the heartbeat of Breakpoint, what was created there in Southeast Asia, and that was helping other people, my life in service of others. That then became the passion, the mission, the driving force. The money became a byproduct, and that changed everything. So anyone that is in business, I would 100% suggest, we have to have our financial goals, but what needs to be in the driving seat is how you're serving others, because every business is serving someone. And, I think it's innate to feel good about helping our fellow man, fellow woman evolve in this life, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's great to see a focus, especially for smaller businesses, towards having a purpose and giving back to communities. And it's more than about the bottom line. And that's really encouraging to see.
I think really, at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that mission statement is your purpose statement, mission statement, your values. So important. You should never overlook that, thinking I need to earn XYZ to pay for XYZ. When I come up with Breakpoint, that I keep saying my mission statement, as soon as I have any kind of stress or duress, as soon as I mention that mission statement to myself, it gives me a sense of purpose, a sense of enthusiasm, and a reason for being.
Well, I can't follow that. So I think we'll end there. But thank you ever so much for coming on the podcast, Ollie.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks very much, Anna.
You can find out more about Ollie at ollieollerton.com. You can also visit smallbusiness.co.uk for more on vision and purpose for your business. Remember to like us on Facebook at Small Business Experts, follow us on Twitter at Small Business UK, all lowercase, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, linked in the description. Until next time, thank you for listening.